On today's show, Nico Harrison said the Mavericks were one Klay Thompson away from winning the title last year. I disagree. I'll tell you why. Today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
Almost done.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Amazing. Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review. Take us with you on the podcast, on the go. Like the video on YouTube. Comment anything below. Today's episode, we'll talk about how Nico Harrison said that the Mavs are a Klay Thompson away in his interview on Summer League. We'll talk about if they were one Klay Thompson away, and if they are one Klay Thompson away from winning a title this next year. So we'll get into that, looking backwards and looking forwards. And we'll talk about the contenders. We'll also talk about what matters in Summer League. Joining me, as always, on a Sunday night going into Monday from 105.3 The Fan, the consummate professional, the sports sicko. He watched like 18 different sporting events today. What you got for me, Reggie Adetula?
Happy Bastille Day. Yep. To all our listeners that and viewers that appreciate the country of France. Happy Bastille Day.
Good job, France. Slightly biased, was very upset. He loves England. He loves London, like the city. He just came back from there and he was very hyped and excited about England today. Too bad.
Well, I mean, that's to be expected if you're an England fan. They haven't won an international tournament since 1966. It is not coming home.
Can't win that one. So let's get into it. Nico Harrison in the Summer League, Mavs first Summer League game, gets on the mic. Did not seem very comfortable on the mic. Jared Greenberg made him even more uncomfortable on the mic. If you heard his interview, he asked, Jared Greenberg did his best to make Nico Harrison uncomfortable, and he said, "Hey, do you want to take over play-by-play for the last play of this quarter?" And Nico was like, "Nah, I'm going to keep my job that I got now." He's like, "I don't want to do that." You got to respect that. Got to respect the guy who knows who he is. But Nico said, "We were a Klay Thompson away. We feel like we got our guy." Reggie Adetula, were the Mavericks actually one Klay away from winning the championship last year?
I mean, if you squint, right? No. Unfortunately, the answer is no, because ultimately, if we're talking about winning the championship, the thing that held them up was the Boston Celtics. Now, you could look at the 3-point disparity in that series and absolutely go, if that is leveled out a little bit, can they do something there? And that's why I think, like, all right, there's an argument to be made there. The problem is, what did we talk about all season into the off season about one of the things that this team needed, which was a third playmaker. Yeah. And Klay Thompson isn't that. As great as he is at getting his shot, and as much as I think the gravity that he will bring and that he would bring would affect and help Luka and Kyrie not be in the place where they were being really heavily impacted. But still, I think that is something to the effect of having that third playmaker would have been, I think, some of the things that you're talking about there, especially when you look at the way that the Boston Celtics were able to affect this team. Yes, the shooting would have helped, but it felt like they were closing out on those shooters still. So it would have been difficult shots that you were having to knock down. And again, Klay Thompson can and will do that. But I imagine that third playmaker matters a good amount in trying to make sure that you were, I guess, that far away from a championship or whatever.
Yeah, this one is tough for me. I've been known as the person that, oh man, Nick, I listen to you after Mavs losses. You make me feel better about where the Mavs are, and you always give me something to look. And now it's me versus the GM right now, where I'm like, no, I do not agree with this, because the gap to me between the Mavs and the Celtics was wide. And I think that maybe in the first couple of games of the finals, maybe it was the bounce of the ball here or there, and maybe Klay would have made a difference. Could it have been tied 2-2 if the Mavs had Klay? And then all of a sudden it changes after that. Could be, yeah, but I still think that Celtics team was very good. There was a big difference. You mentioned just the sheer amount of threes made. The Celtics went 70 of 207 from three in the finals. That was like that was about 34%, which is not good, but still hit 70. The Mavs went 48 of 152 for 32%. So like you're talking about a big gap in like 22 threes. Is Klay Thompson making up that gap? Is he changing that? Is he changing, like you said, some of the playmaking and things like that? I don't think he also changes what Kyrie did. And we can't forget how bad Kyrie was in some of those Celtics games in Boston. Like that was a big difference for the Mavericks too. If they had Klay, could they have won the championship last year? Maybe if it came down to the bounce the ball first couple of games, they were real close. Mavs outscored the Celtics through 4 games. Like that was a real thing. But I'm not buying it because I do think that the gap was still bigger. I like the addition of what Klay Thompson brings to the Mavericks, but I also think that it would be different. You wouldn't have the same kind of defense that you did if you had Klay Thompson instead of Derrick Jones Jr. And so now you're bringing that into the equation. There's just different factors that go into it. And so I'm just having a hard time with this one, Reggie. Like I just don't think that they were a Klay away. What is the point of saying that they were a Klay away? What is the point of that for Nico Harrison on the broadcast?
That's a really good question. I imagine. Go ahead, ask a question.
Instilling confidence in the team, is it saying, all right, we've got the Klay Thompson now. We were a Klay away. We got to keep convincing these guys that we were like so close at times, and then now we've got to move forward and be like, all right, we've got the guy. But Michael Finley sat there on the presser on Monday. I was there, like sat there and said, ultimately these guys aren't the be all end all for us to to answer all of our problems. And you go, oh, okay. What a lack of shot of confidence right there from Michael Finley. But then Nico Harrison says we were a Klay Thompson away, and now they've got him. And so now it's like, all right, we got our guy. Now we're going to move on.
I mean, when you make that direct juxtaposition, I do wonder how much of that is like cleaning up the Michael Finley comment. However,
fair.
I think that some of this is just like, hey, man, this is the move that we made. Let's sell it, right? Like, let's make sure that we sell it as much as possible. And I don't even know how much it needs to be sold. But as you mentioned, right, you went up against a very good Boston Celtics team. There was, I think, an understanding that there probably was something that was missing from this team.
Absolutely.
When you add something, I think it's very reasonable for you to go, I went and bought this thing. This is the thing that we were missing, right? Like it was the
KitchenAid mixer. The KitchenAid mixer, I bought it. Now we have perfect food at home.
It was a this shaped hole, right? This is now going to fix it, right? And that's the level of confidence that I think you have to have in
air fryer.
In that. And again, I don't even want to say this because I think that some of the perspective here might sound like I am saying that he is lying to us or what have you, or lying to himself. Like, I'm not sure if that's the case. Like, I think that there's a level of, you have to believe that to be the case for you to go and make that move, right? Especially with the urgency that it seems like he did. They dropped everything and were like, yo, let's make sure that we get this across the line and let's go get Najee Marshall. Let's pull the levers and switches to make sure that we make this happen. And so I imagine that some of that is simply just the confidence in knowing that 3-point shooting needed to be better, right? Like we're not saying now in saying that I don't know that we agree with that was not something that they need to get better at. It clearly was something that they need to get better at. And so I understand for him going, boom, we have significantly gotten better at that. We are now championship ready. And I think also I wonder how much of that is an acknowledgement that no team is going to be perfect. So the idea that you're going to have a perfect team is not going to happen. So you are significantly better, therefore, and you were in the finals, ergo, boom, difference in a championship.
And it's also like we were in the finals and we did get better. And so now it's like, all right, we were a Klay away. To be clear, I don't think that Nico was lying. I think that he believes this. Like I really do think that he believes that they were a Klay away and that he went and got Klay Thompson, and now the Mavericks are title contenders. So let's break that down. That are the Mavericks a Klay away now? that they have a Klay? Are the Mavericks title contenders now? How do they stack up with the rest of the team? So we'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is Locked On Mavs is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. The Mavs were a Klay away, but you may be an eBay Motors visit away from getting exactly what you need to keep your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance with things like superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more things of such. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With more than 122 million different parts for your number one ride or die, you'll find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or the money back. You will get it. Your money back. You'll get that money. That money will come back to you. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Still can't leave me open.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We'll be daily all throughout the summer. We'll just be here. Just be here. I'll take a vacation. I'll go visit my parents in Ohio. I'll go to some exotic places, but we'll still have some shows. So, Reggie Adetula here with me, talking about Nico Harrison's comments at Summer League. He said, we were a Klay Thompson away. We feel like we got our guy. We discussed that. I don't really buy that the Mavs were a Klay away last year, but are they a Klay away from the 2025 championship, Reggie?
I think that is something that you can absolutely sell me. I'm willing to hear that. This is a title contender with 100%. Last year we came into the season looking at the West and going, "Oh my goodness, that is a monster!" Right? You could probably list off 11, maybe 12 if you wanted to stretch it. Teams that you go, things break right. That's a team that's going to be tough to contend with. With what the Mavericks, I think, proved throughout the run after the trade deadline and into the postseason and through the postseason, I look around and I have, like, just with deference, I look and I go, there is a clear tier of 4 teams at the top of the West that the Mavs are absolutely embedded right in between. Right. And then outside of that, like, there's other teams that I go, I'm not too concerned with. And I say with deference because I'm putting the Denver Nuggets in there. And I got questions. I got big questions about Denver because they don't have depth. So, like, if I was going to be disrespectful, I would say there are 3 teams, and the Mavericks are absolutely one of those teams, right? Like, that is the place that I feel like they are. And if you're in that spot where you're one of the 3 best teams in the conference that I think we all regard the most highly in the NBA, I mean, are you not a title contender at that moment, right? Like, I think, and especially if you want to break this down further, I think that the one thing that I've had some questions about with the Klay Thompson thing, and we've talked about this, I think the shooting goes up. What happens if the defense isn't at the quite the same level? Because then you're forced to, maybe not forced to, but the likelihood is that you're probably going to close with 3 guys on the perimeter that might not have as much of the lateral quickness as you want to deal with that. And I think the places where that will show up is if you have like an elite level guard that you're contending with in those postseason situations. If I go down really quick and try and look at the teams that might have something like that.
Here's who go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, you got it. Go.
Okay. Minnesota with Anthony Edwards is one of those guys. I go, okay, that's interesting. Yep. Maybe Shea, but I think that he's sizable enough, and I think you might be able to still stay in front of him a decent amount. Like, who else do you got, right? Like that you're like, hey man, that elite guard is gonna pop up and really
Jamal Murray.
Okay, that's fair, right? Jamal Murray is another one that you have to contend with. And I'm like, if Memphis somehow gets themselves together, Ja Morant could pop out, but I'm not certain about the rest of that. Like, I just don't know how many of those teams are poised to really attack that particular potential weakness. I'm not even saying that's definitively weakness.
You don't believe in the DeMar DeRozan, Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Sacramento Kings?
I think that team is exactly as good as it was last year. And I want to say, I don't think that is I don't think that in the grand scale of things, that's an issue. I actually feel like there is some value in just being good right now. Staying just good for forever, not really going to do things for you. But for a team like Sacramento, an organization that had been in the doldrums for so long, hey man, be good for a little bit. Stretch that out for yourself. But I don't view them as a something to contend with, something to worry about.
You're not a believer in the Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal comeback story?
Did they add anybody to the cast?
Yes. Mason Plumlee, Team USA, gold medal winner.
I love that Mason Plumlee, where every once in a while give you one of those moves where you go, why does he have that in his bag? But other than that, I don't think that shifts.
Also, I need to check to make sure he won a gold medal. I made that joke and don't think I knew if did he win a gold medal? Yes, he did in 2014 in Spain.
Hey!
I knew he was on a team, but I was like, he won silver in 2008. Why was he?
Also,
the under 18s.
Did you happen to turn injuries off in 2K? Is that what's happening here? Like, because I think that also remains always an issue with that particular subset of dudes.
Yeah, I started looking through like the teams that you were mentioning about the defense. Incredible point. But I had the same list of teams as far as contenders. It's the Mavs, the Nuggets, who took a step back with KCP leaving for sure. The Nuggets would tell you that. They also just lost Deron Holmes, who was their rookie that they were really excited about, which is hard to kind of quantify going into a season. But it's just one less guy that is an option for them going forward. And he takes up a roster spot, and he takes up the cap space, and like all that. I mean, Achilles injury, like, it's brutal for them. They don't even have that opportunity to try to that guy.
And real quick, can I slide this in about the Nuggets? One thing that I also remember, they were one of the lowest in three-point shooting this year. When we talk about those disparities in threes, KCP was the dude that was helping keep that up. Right? They don't have a three-point shooting in the ways that the Mavericks just got some. They lost it. So if you look at the ways that went in the postseason for the Mavs, and you saw the three-point barrage that ultimately hit them, they're going to have some things to contend with there as well. That's one of the reasons why the Nuggets, I got questions.
We got questions. I still got questions about the Timberwolves. I know they'll probably take maybe a step forward, but growth is not always linear for teams like that too. You see maybe a regression from year to year. I mean, the Mavericks dealt with that. And then, the Thunder. The Thunder definitely got better. They'll be the number one team. If they're not the number one team in the West next year, something bad happened.
Probably. Or they took a little time to gel with the new pieces and figure out how you play Hartenstein and Chet in various instances. Like, maybe that slows them down at some points. But no, I think I'm with you in that.
And then you go to the East, and you're like, all right, still the Celtics. Still the Celtics world, and we're living in it, right? Like, they're the should be the favorites, are the champions, all that. And then, like, I had three teams after I listed all four of the West teams, and then I was like, all right, I got big questions about the Sixers, I got big questions about the Knicks, and I got big questions about the Bucks. Yeah, and those are the only three on that side besides the Celtics.
I can easily believe in what the Knicks are doing. The Sixers, I can believe in it. However, I keep falling for this. Like, I think everybody has the team that they fall for the pump fake. And the Sixers are the team that I keep falling for the pump fake. Just last year, and this is where I'll be very transparent. Coming into the playoffs, even with the Embiid coming off the injury, I was like, "Yep, I think they win the East, or at least in the Eastern Conference Finals." And one thing I refuse to acknowledge every time I do this is, when was the last time that Joel Embiid has had a healthy playoff run? Because wouldn't that be his first? Right? Like, so I think that ends up being an issue there. And then who is it? The Bucks that you were telling me about? Yeah, I believe
Paul George also hasn't been healthy like that much. He was healthy last year, and was healthy in 2021, but like, he's also been hurt, and none of those guys have really been out of the second round. So I mean, until that, and Doc Rivers is still their coach. So that's a tough one for me to buy into. The Knicks I buy into more than the Sixers, honestly, right now.
Yeah, man, those guys are out here running the college team. They got all the camaraderie in the world.
Hey, listen, we at least know they can win a championship. It wasn't an NBA one, but they won one in college at least.
And another thing, I'm sure Tibbs and Mikal Bridges will get along fine, because they both have the idea of, you can play all the minutes, it's cool.
And then you got the Bucks, who were like a 50-win team last year, and I don't know, maybe the Damian Lillard thing goes better this season, but just because they have Giannis, you got to put him up there to me.
Fair enough. I mean, again, I really am just in a place where I got to see it, because they really sacrificed on defense when it came to that trade, and I figured, the offense will be fine, and it wasn't. So I'm gonna need that faith restored visibly.
Yeah, so I think we've come to, yes, the Mavericks can win a title this year, which is not a big stretch, but the Klay Thompson move could make them one move away. It could be the move that gets them a championship. So I do think they match up better, a little bit better with Boston now. And Mavs take some time to gel, and we'll see what happens with them going forward. I still think they would lose to the Celtics if they faced again. Like, if this team versus that Celtics team, I still think the Mavs would lose again. Are you in the same spot?
I think that if I was in a situation predicting a series going in, I would predict them to falter. However, they definitely have a better opportunity, because we're talking about obviously the additions, but we also have to talk about growth. And you were out there running with a true rookie, Derek Lively, who is already a vocal leader defensively. Only God knows what that looks like after another year of this. Are you willing to take the gamble that Kyrie Irving looks like that again?
That's a great point.
And then the big thing that I'm sure we can talk about a little bit more when we talk about what matters in summer league, and I guess you can cut the league off of this for this point. What matters in summer is that Luka Doncic will be sitting on his keister a little bit, right?
That is correct.
Right,
Dallas is going to get a seat.
Just gonna get a seat.
Dallas is going to get a seat.
And so, like, what does that do with the Luka Doncic that maybe has a little bit more juice and fewer knocks?
Damn it, Reggie.
Touche.
You talked me into it. Yes,
Let's
the Mavs
go.
would win the Mavs would beat the Celtics this year because I do think they would have a healthy Luka, and I can't let the recency bias of what the Mavs look like against that Celtics team make me forget how bad Luka looked in that series. And yes, the Celtics defense had something to do with it. Jaylen Brown did a great job. They did a great job scheming against him. But now if you have that release valve again with Klay in a way, and Kyrie is playable in Boston, right? If he figures that out mentally, then it is probably a closer series than I'm thinking about it right now, because it's hard for me to like look back on those because I was at all those games. I heard all the Celtics fans and Celtics media all the time like, "Oh, can't believe how non-competitive this is." All that, and you're just like, it's just like beating you down. Going, So you talked me into it.
Touche.
Coming up, let's talk about what matters in Summer League for the Dallas Mavericks. Omax, Melvin Aginsa, what do they have to play for? What are they playing for tomorrow? And what did they play for yesterday? We'll talk about all that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by FanDuel. Have a duel with fans all across the world by going to FanDuel.com and seeing what is available for you. They got all kinds of fun stuff. You can bet on Summer League. I would like you to know that. The Mavs Summer League team is a 4.5-point underdog against the Grizzlies as I am looking at it right now. So you can go do that. You can also bet the over-under, which may be a little bit more fun to bet on the over-under than like the team that wins, because sometimes it just comes down to which one random guy you've never heard of gets very hot from three or whatever. But the over-under is 180.5. That means the combined points of the two teams. What is it going to go over that? That's kind of fun to watch that. They also have the NBA Finals. We've been talking about that. Celtics still the favorite, plus 300. Oklahoma City Thunder, plus 750. The Nuggets, plus 850. Sixers, plus 850. Knicks, plus 900. Then the Mavs, plus 1,000 are the next closest one. So go check out all that out. FanDuel, they've got all kinds of bonuses and boosts like that all throughout the offseason, all throughout the WNBA season you can do as well. MLB with all that. Guys, go check out FanDuel.com.
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great.
I'm not playing. I'm watching.
Dang it. Button got stuck.
Oh god.
The button got stuck on the Jason Kidd. Get out of here.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like
Also,
you guys.
It's also Summer League for Locked On Mavs.
Coach.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
The button got stuck, and instead of going to the one page, it went to page 2, and it.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
Najee Marshall may have confidence, but
I'm talented at everything, to be honest. I do it all, so you name it, I'm good at it. So
the Dallas Mavericks Summer League team lost their first game to the Utah Jazz. It was a nail-biter. Came down to a Kenny Lofton drive and free throws at the end of it. Brutal ending for them. But in the big picture, let's look at what things matter in this Summer League. So what matters for the Mavericks yesterday in the game, what matters tomorrow in the game against the Grizzlies. I'm going to start here. I think one of the things is it was awesome to see Patrick Dumont, the Mavs' new governor, Nico Harrison, Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall, Derek Lively, Jaden Hardy, all sitting courtside. I think we may see more of those guys. I think we may see more guys in the next game, but it was great to see all those guys together. It's great to have the Mavericks like supporting each other, to have those guys get to know each other. Maybe they're working out there, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think if you're just talking about what matters in Summer League, the actual Mavericks on the roster being there and being together probably matters more than anything that'll happen on the Summer League team.
Yeah, especially when you juxtapose that with last season where this team came together fully in February, right?
Yeah.
The idea of having these guys together for the most part starting all the way now in July, and what camaraderie can build, what nuances can be learned about about each other over the course of a longer stretch of time. And obviously a majority of them have played together now for a few months, but now you add with Klay, Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall coming in, like that additional level of camaraderie. And as we know, Summer League is one of those NBA conventions, basically. So them having that real time together, not too much unlike the bubble teams, and we saw like the ways in which that really grew the relationships that this team saw during that time. Obviously not exactly the same because they're not spending all the damn time together, but I mean just more time together I imagine would help out with what's going on.
You don't think we'll see a video drop of all of them like hanging out the windows of their hotel rooms like fake DJing? Remember that video of Maxey and Dwight and JJ and Luka?
I would not say that that's not a possibility. I'm just saying we probably won't see it, if you know what I'm saying.
won't be video. There will not be evidence of it. Yeah, I think the
not be televised.
The chemistry of this Mavericks team matters a lot for them, and I think that having those guys together, getting to know each other, especially having Grimes and Najee Marshall there, I think is great, and I think that matters for the Mavericks. I think for the actual Summer League team, Jared Greenberg said this, and I said this on the post game that I did the other day. The Mavs told him that if Melvin Agentza shows enough to them in Summer League, he could earn the last roster spot. To me, I think that means, I'm reading between the lines here, that AJ Lawson and Melvin Agentza are fighting for a roster spot on the Mavericks. Fair, unfair?
Oh, wow. That feels unfair, but I can't outright say you're wrong.
one of the public tea leaves that I'm reading is Markieff Morris, like openly campaigning for Marcus Morris to join the Mavericks. And somebody responded to him and it was like, well, we got to get you back too. And he's like, oh, I'll be back. Don't worry. And I'm like, okay. So if he's very confident he's coming back, and this is just public tea leaves, this is no source to anything. This is just me thinking like, all right, if that's going to happen. And I think that it would be smart for them to bring him back because he was a very big part of what the Mavericks did last year. Veteran voice in the locker room. You need one of those guys like that. And not all 15 guys can play. Sorry. But yeah, if that's going to happen, then it is Melvin versus AJ because AJ's got a non-guaranteed contract.
Yeah. The tough thing about that, though, is like if I look at just profile a player, which maybe I am erring here in thinking that matters a ton at the end of the roster. But the profile of player, I imagine Agentza fits a lot closer to what the Morris boys are giving you than what AJ Lawson does. And so that feels like a very different type of player that you're slotting into that last slot. But again, I don't know how much that factors in what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know that they're different enough. Like, are AJ and Melvin different enough? AJ Lawson's going to be that super athletic, streaky shooter, can get to the rim a little bit here and there type of guy. We heard from Jared Dudley that one of the things he wants him to focus on is toughness and guarding some of the best players. And can he hold his own doing that? And like, I don't know if they can do that. Whereas Melvin, Jared Dudley called him a point forward, 6'8", bigger guy than AJ Lawson, stronger guy than AJ Lawson. Looked real confident in his shot. His shot didn't go down in the first of Summer League, but that happens to many guys.
Yeah, he was pulling them.
Jalen Brunson shot 24% in Summer League. I would like everyone to remember that when we talk about this.
Okay, so Melvin Agentza is eventually going to run a team. I see what you're going for. I see you.
He's going to be 5th in MVP voting at some point in his career. This is where I'm at with it. I do think that it is a competition between them.
I hadn't viewed it that way, but when you put it in that way, it's like, all right, that makes it a lot more interesting in viewing this. And I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to have that level of competition and energy and drive in it. Like AJ Lawson has been nice when you've asked him to do things, but obviously if you can get younger in that way, if you can get him more energy, and if you can get a little bit closer to what you're looking for, I like it. And I think the nice thing about it is that you always still seem to have the opportunity to draft and stash him if necessary. Right. So this, I don't think that you're like absolutely losing. It's only if he fits absolutely what you're looking for, which I think, again, that's the stakes on the Mavs level. Is like the stakes are low on the Mavs level. It's probably high when it comes to AJ Lawson in particular. But otherwise, like the Mavs are just, let's see it play out. And ultimately what happens on the court will guide them. So I'm interested in what you're saying there. I'm still kind of working through it mentally, but ultimately it'll be fun to see play out on the court.
It's my it's just my reading the tea leaves. Just reading the tea leaves conspiracy on that is that they're fighting for a roster spot right now.
Okay.
They were both very aggressive in the first Summer League game too, like very aggressive. You could tell Melvin was fighting for something, and we do know publicly that Melvin is fighting for something. So the Mavs could give him a roster. We'll give him a roster spot if he shows enough. But the question is, whose roster spot is it the open one or is it AJ's? And that's where I'm reading into it. The other thing I think that matters in Summer League is Omax. I would like to see from Omax. Can you show me anything extra offensively? He had a couple of really good post-ups in game 1 that I was like, okay, that's something that you could maybe do. He got fouled. We know that he can do that. But defensively, what do you show me? Can you see that the game has slowed down for him a little bit, which is what everybody keeps saying that he needs to do?
Yeah. And I hate to trend on the negative because I tend to be a little bit negative. I apologize for that. I still see like him attacking the paint and just getting thrown, right? Like I see him like having some troubles being able to finish in the tall trees. And that's one of the things you need him to do. And then the shot is not necessarily looking as clean as you would want it to. And those are some of the things that you really want. You know that he gives effort. You know that there's energy there. But as you mentioned, the game's got to slow down, but then it also has to look like it's on point. There needs to be a little bit more cleanliness in the way that he goes about things. And so, as you mentioned, again, first game when it comes to Summer League, it can be boom, it can be bust, and neither of those really can mean all that much at the same time. We've seen it go either which way when it comes to Summer League, but it needs to over time show that he is comfortable because this is a level down, right? Like or a half step, right? This if you don't look as comfortable as possible here, I think it's only fair to ask what it looks like when you're playing even back end of the rotation guys in the NBA consistently. So it needs to come to a head because we're talking about the difference between being an active part of a rotation or being on the fringes and playing when games are over,
Well, and playing some more time in Frisco, maybe.
Yeah, that's also true for sure.
For the G League Texas Legends team. Yeah, there you go. Let us know in the comment section what matters in Summer League. Let us know if you think the Mavericks are one Klay Thompson away, because now they have one Klay Thompson. So let us know about that. Go check out Reggie on 105.3 The Fan. And yeah, the MLB All-Star Game is coming up. You'll be there. You'll be doing shows from there. So we'll I don't know. Will we watch that? Are there Rangers in this game? I have no idea.
There are 3 Rangers in this game.
Hey! El Bombi?
He'll be in the home run derby. Hey,
nice.
You got stuff.
Who are the 3 in the All-Star game?
Marcus Semien starting shortstop.
Okay.
Or starting second baseman, sorry. Corey Seager was just added today at shortstop. And then Kirby Yates, closer, going to be in there as well. So there you go. Rangers all over the All-Star game at Globe Life Field.
That is the first time I've heard the name Kirby Yates in my life.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs. Go listen to Locked On Rangers for actual Rangers knowledge because Bryce has it and I do not. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.